All right, welcome back to Resilient Voices and Beyond, episode 3 of season 3. I almost messed that up, but it's great. You guys know that I have to look at the thing before I do it, but it's so exciting to be here. Season 3 is turning out to be a wonderful season. I'm trying to expand and get more individuals on this season, that speaks to resiliency, of many different types and many different categories, but still holds true to the base of what this podcast is for. With that being said, my name is Michael D. Davis Thomas, aka MDDT Speaks. It is a pleasure to be here with you guys today, or whenever you're listening to this. I have 11 years of experience in the Michigan child welfare system, a decade of experience working in many different facets within child welfare, nationally and locally. But enough about me. You guys not here for me. I'm going to pass it to my guest for her to introduce herself.
Okay, well, hello, welcome. So, this is my first time being on this podcast. And I just want to say thank you, Michael, for, having our cross pass and, just welcoming onto this podcast. My name is Farah Jackson, and I am a student currently at Wayne State University studying community health. So I've also gotten my bachelor's at Oakland University, and that is in communications. But I've also done a minor in sociology, and so that's kind of where sociology comes into play. Um, and right now, I'm kind of graduating. I'm in the mixture of that, trying to study law. So my next degree will be JD, hopefully. So yeah, that's just a little bit about me. I'm still a student, still trying to get my master's and be certified and stuff like that. So that's just a little bit about me and what I'm doing.
Wow. So you've lived a lifetime in such a short bit of time, and so
Yeah.
much education. I don't know if you like me. I love learning, and having that opportunity to learn more, whether it's from people, whether it's from life, but also from our education system, is awesome. Sometimes it doesn't come as easy,
No,
but
not
as the
at all.
opportunity knocks for me to learn, I definitely run towards it. Which leads me to my first question, or really question/statement. Can you help me and the audience get a better sense of yourself by building a timeline to what is your why? What started you into this? When did you realize you wanted to help others or, pursue this route of education?
So this is actually a very, very complicated question for me because I struggled. Okay. I'm just going to lay it out on the table. So I was really young when I went into college. Even when I started high school between the ages of like 12 to 15/16. So I was just a baby. And so when I got into college, I was still 16 because my birthday was in February. So it's like then I turned 17. And so I went to Michigan State University. That was the first acceptance. I was like, okay, I'm going to go there. But that was not my first choice. I got accepted to Hampton University, which I really wanted to go to. But I didn't really have a major yet. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do law. And what I didn't know, and I wish I knew back then, was you don't have to choose a major right then and there. But when you have all these people telling you what to do because you're young, you fall short and you end up struggling a lot. And that is what happened with me because I went right in. I said pre law. That is what I wanted to do. And I was not ready for it. I saw things on TV, and although it is similar, it is not all cameras and lights. It is not what it's supposed to be. But it didn't mean I hated the subject. It just was difficult. I didn't know how to study, where to study, what to go to. The class was over like 800 students. It was crazy. It wasn't until because I took some summer classes at OCC, which is Oakland Community College, and it wasn't until then where, okay, I kept getting on academic probation. My GPA stayed at like a 1.5. I never thought I was going to get my bachelor's. It was so terrible. It was very traumatic for me because I had no support system. It was like everybody was telling me what I should do, like, oh, you're gonna struggle, stick it out, stick it out. And sometimes we're not struggling because they thought I wasn't studying enough, like, oh, you're always out, you're not really studying. So for me, I had to figure out my own path and what I wanted because that's how I learned. That's how I, move is, my own thoughts. So I really sat down and I was like, okay, I'm really good with this. I'm really good with that. So I looked at the pros and cons. What do I like? What can I see me doing? And a lot of what I liked had no jobs. So, like, I liked philosophy. I took every class you can think of. And so I took philosophy, psychology, and I tried to pinpoint, like, okay, how can I make money off of this? I'm doing really good. Sociology. And so I was like, let me do sociology as a minor, just keep that in the books, but I really love it. And I tried to figure out, I was like, okay, I'm going to major in communications because you can do a lot with that. I wasn't too good with math, so I didn't really want to do business, but I still took classes in business. And so that's kind of where my bachelor's degree kind of came from. It wasn't a sense of I looked at a job. I more so looked at what I liked, and then I connected the job with it. But then, so I still wanted to do law and I tried not to steer away from it. So even though, because we're always told, like, okay, what do you want to do when you grow up? And they always like just tell you doctor, lawyer, like one thing. And for me, you never know what the world's going to be like in 5 years, 10 years. Like we had the whole pandemic. And so I didn't even know, we had remote jobs. We had to find work, and that was really hard for some people. And so part of the reason why I'm aiming to get like 4 degrees in different areas is because I've seen the struggle. I've seen, you have to be adaptable. That's something that I've also learned. And so part of the reason as to why I'm studying law, I'm studying social work is mainly because I feel like as women and even Black women, we don't really have a voice. And I kept feeling like the lack of support. Like I felt like, and me being like a first generation, like going into law, I had no resources. Like I didn't know where to look. People kept saying scholarships, but I mean, you fill out so many scholarships, you don't really hear back. It's just like it's draining almost. So then you have to meet requirements. So I kind of struggled with like not knowing where to start. And thank God for Oakland University, OCC, because I figured out that the smaller schools have the best resources and they don't see you as a number or just like a student. They see you as family, like we need to take care of one another. And so I think when picking a school, when figuring out what you want to do, you really have to struggle first and know what you want. Because if you just hop in or listen to every opinion, you're not going to go far. And so I don't know. I would just say like why is because of personal experience that I don't want to get too into, but I've noticed that like support is huge. And I'm not just talking like internet support. I'm talking like one-on-one, like really just being there, just hugs, anything. So I think especially me trying to be a Black lawyer, it's like 3% of us that are actually going in and trying and, really succeeding. So just the struggles of, figuring out where to start, I think is a big thing. And I don't know, it's just a lot there, but, my main thing on why I started to do law and communication and social work is just that support system and letting people know that, like, you are heard and that, your voices matter. No problem is too small or too short, and so because I hate when people tell me, like, "Oh, just suck it up," or, "Go on about your day," or, so that's kind of why I started, if that
Oh,
makes sense.
no, it definitely does. It definitely does. And couple things you said really spoke up, and I really kind of heard those. You were in high school really young, so like even that, high school isn't for the weak. You know,
It's
so I can only imagine having to grow up, having to adapt, having to, try to,
man.
be and that's a place where you find identity. That's a place where you try to, fit in and, talking about at like 12 and all these young age, when, technically you don't get there until like 15 or 16,
Yeah, you
that's a
know,
lot. That's a
develop
lot.
it.
So, and then, getting to college young,
Yeah. They're like, "You're
so
sitting here." I'm like,
it,
"Yes,
it,
I am."
it was kind of like an accelerated experience for you, so
Mhm.
having those barriers, having those difficulties, having those moments, it would happen to any of us. I know
Mhm.
now we are getting to this space where we're recognizing that college is hard and it takes a village, to
Takes
really
a lot of village. It's
right,
hard.
right, to make it through, and we're seeing that it's not just at risk people, who need those villages, it's us as a people who need those villages.
Mm.
Um, but you spoke about these different areas and navigating this. I want to go to one of my questions, me, you talked about prior, but having to navigate, having those talks with yourself, because I'm pretty sure it wasn't just one, you
I
know,
talk to myself a
having to
lot.
come back like, self, what we about to do? Come on, because this ain't it.
Oh, yes, and people think that's weird.
Um,
It's really not weird.
right, right. How did mental health and self care play a part, and when did you realize? And I don't want to insinuate, but I feel like every adult, every young person has to come to a place where they like, look, I need to take mental health serious. I need to take self care serious. I don't even know where to start, but something, we gonna have to figure it out,
Yeah.
self. And yourself be like, but
Oh, yeah.
um, when did that? When did that start, and what difficulties did you face within that realm with yourself?
So, honestly, I can't really pinpoint where it started because things in my life, like especially with family, and I won't go too deep into that part, but I had some dramatic events happen that was out of my control when I was like really young, like 12 years old. And so we had a big change. And so even in your last statement, when you talked about high school and stuff like that, I moved. So I started ninth grade in the suburbs, and that was very fast. It was a lot of white people. Like it was very culture shock for me. And then in 10th grade, I moved to an all black. And I'm like, okay, that's me, that's my culture, but it still was a major change at 12 and 13 years old. And so when it came to mental health, like even back then, I was struggling with it, but I didn't connect it to mental health. I just said, these are problems out of my control. I don't know how to deal with it. And I kind of, for the longest, I used to be really shy and I kind of just was scared to speak. And so when I had that transition to high school, or at least from, the suburbs to my own people, I was able to step out of the shell and I was more outgoing. And that came with a lot more problems with that. And so really college, really freshman year till now, I've experienced like real mental health, but I feel like it's levels. So it's like freshman year, I've kind of dealt with other people's mental health to where it was like they were experiencing problems and projecting onto me. And so I dealt with a lot of not really self identity, but more of questioning everything I did. Cause I was like, oh my gosh, this is my fault you're feeling like this. What is going on? Because people would snap, people would just be in their own feelings. And then you would just say, "Hi, how's it going?" And it's just like, whoa. It's just like, oh my God. So, or when you text, because nowadays our generation loves to text, you don't really hear tone, you don't really hear feeling, and you think something is how it is, and you just get caught up. So I would say now that I'm an adult, the mental health has skyrocketed. I have realized because I'm evolving and I'm growing and I'm starting to understand. that you can't take everybody with you. You can't help the other person unless they want to be helped. And it's so hard sometimes when you really love a person and it really messes with your mental health. So, like for me, yeah, okay, I'm fine. I'm doing, I'm moving along. But the relationships, the bonds really do affect my mental health. And so I can even give you like a recent example. Um, I feel alone all the time. I'm not even gonna lie. I feel kind of trapped, kind of in this solitary where it's like no one gets me. Like my character is very misunderstood. Um, and so I try to bring people along. I try to, because I go to therapy. I've had every school I went to, I've had a therapist with me. And, my family doesn't believe in therapists. So it's really hard when you try to teach the people around you what you've learned and try and, build a more healthier relationship with family, friends, and stuff like that. But they don't get it. They don't understand. And so it makes it more frustrating. So I've had times where, and I hope people don't take this the wrong way, because I do not want to sound like too suicidal, but I've had times where I've thought about like, why am I even here? Like everybody's mad at me. And I had to not take it personal. I had to be like, okay, they they may be screaming at me, but it's not me. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not my fault. And but sometimes it is your fault. Sometimes it could be your own fault. And sometimes that's really hard for us to accept. And so I get upset when people misuse terms. When they say they're depressed and they're just doing their hair, or when they say, oh my gosh, I want to commit suicide because of a breakup. And it's like, but they're like laughing the next day. Like I get so upset about those things because people really go through it. Even at Michigan State, I would drink a lot just to escape some problems. I would party a lot. But then, on the net, everything looks good. Um, but I really didn't have an outlet. I didn't have every time I would go to somebody, they would say like, "Oh, it's your fault," or "You're grown enough, you should have got out of that situation." And I don't think age I don't think age should be tied to a trauma or tied to, mental health and what's going on because even though we're old enough and you feel like you should work things out, it depends on the situation. Sometimes you could just like I've had moments where I freeze up, where I'm just like, I don't know what to do because I don't want to be disrespectful and I really don't know how to go about it. And that was when I was at age 23. So, I mean, it could be family members that you would never suggest that would do stuff to you and but you just got to forgive them. Um so mental health really I don't like to share too much on social media. Sometimes I make, statements here or there, but I never tie it to a name or situation. But yeah, I've really struggled with mental health a lot. And I've never been in the depression phase, but I've always had a high self esteem. I've always had to pick myself up. And that's where the mini talks come through because I've had to talk myself out of being mad, basically. I had to say, you know what? No, this is like, yeah, I'll admit I was wrong here. But if I tried to reach out, apologize, if I tried my very best to make it up and you're still not budging, it's really nothing I could do. And so I let God handle it. I'm spiritual, not too religious, but I literally say a prayer. I'm like, okay, I wish them the best. I don't talk bad about them. I just let it go. And because some people are going through their own thing. And I think that's what we need to a lot of times realize is that when people's, and not giving it a pass because it's still messed up, but it's like people need to really be nicer to one another and understand that people are really going through it. So it's like anything you say, even if you think it's nice, can come off in the wrong way and it could just stir up some mess. So I don't know. That's just hopefully I answered your question, but I
Yeah,
felt like that was really
yeah,
long, but
no.
that just was like, I just don't that's kind of why I've been in school, honestly, because I just feel like I put all my sadness and emotions and how I feel into my work. And I think that's why I succeed well and do well is because and they're just like, Fair, you can't stay in school all this time. It's been like 8 years. I'm like, look, I need to keep busy because if I'm in a room for 24 hours by myself, I don't know what's gonna happen. So I need to stay busy. And for me, I'm all fine with going to parties here or there, but if I'm gonna be busy, it needs to be productive. So that way I feel a sense of like, okay, I'm doing something good. But yeah, to answer your mental health question, your girl's been going through it. It's not easy out here, but you gotta pick yourself up every day. You know, you gotta love yourself. So, but that's to answer that question.
Definitely, definitely. You spoke to so many different things, and I want to kind of break this down if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest things that you spoke to that I think is, something we need to bring up here is um, the cultural aspect of being Black and seeing a therapist or dealing with your mental health, and what have you. And I know it's not just within the African American or Black culture. It's not.
Mhm.
Now we see that there's trends of this, and Asian culture, Hispanic, Mexican, Latin, culture as well, but also, it begs the question, in some of these cultures and some of these trends and some of these things, because a lot of us come from other places, a lot of us have a lot of history in America that we all can speak to within these different cultures. But it also ties to what have we had to endure,
Mhm.
and what have we had to say okay to that it wasn't okay. What
Yeah.
did we have to be, turn a blind eye and be like, we're not going to talk about that,
It's
and
like
when we look at
mhm.
history here in America, we look at all the different BIPOC communities, all the different minority, communities that are affected by this same trend. We're not going to talk about mental health, or we suggest that you pray about it, and nothing against praying about it, because
Mhm.
prayer can change things as well, depending on whichever religion or whatever you are. I don't want to, suggest anybody, but
Don't
you
offend
know,
anybody.
um, you know, prayer can help, but also,
Mhm.
going to see that professional after to really get a better, clear cut understanding,
Yeah.
may help, and therapy is such a wide there's such a wide range of different therapies now that can fit anybody, like you don't even have to go to an office. Some therapists will meet you at your bowling alley,
They'll
meet you
do
in the
it
park,
over the
like
phone.
you
They
could
do
be
it,
on the
yeah.
phone.
They
So
so mobile now, and I love it. Yes.
yes, definitely, definitely. But I wanted to speak to that because us as a society, and I'm pretty sure it's not just affecting America. I only speak to America because this is where I'm at. You
Mhm.
know, um, but I'm pretty sure it happens all over. But I wanted to highlight that because you're not alone in that. Partially how I was raised and what have you. We talk about it. Hey, did you talk to God about it? Yeah, I did that before I came over here to ask your advice.
Yeah. He
Or
let
what
me
have you,
to
and then you find yourself stunted as a kid when you go to your elder, or go to your parent, or go to someone who you hold at a high regard, and they give you such a dead end answer. That's what I'm gonna call it
Mhm.
from now.
They shut
For
you
lack of
down.
better words,
Yeah.
a dead end answer. I'm like, okay, I know, and it's not that because I'm a Christian or what have you, and I know some other people that may listen to this and may be mad. I don't care, but like as a kid, you go to church or what have you, but you still have to build that relationship with God to understand what He can do for you.
Like yourself,
Or
you
yeah, right, and what have you, and I feel like not just as a Christian community, as an understanding of faith in anything, you grow to learn that relationship. You
Mhm.
know, as a kid, you're still learning that lesson, learning that relationship, learning, the ins and outs of that. So when you get told, you know, did you pray about it? You looking for something a little bit more tangible, something you can hold, something that's a little bit
Some people don't
more,
even believe in
and
God, so
that broke my heart a lot of times as a kid. I'm being completely
mhm,
honest because I'm like, dang, there's no one to turn to, and then that loneliness sinks in. That that's so like I guess I got to do it myself, and then you find because you don't have the answers, you fall prey to so many different things, and
mhm,
then later on down the line, you take a glimpse of yourself in the mirror and you like, dang, how did I get here?
yeah.
You know, but I wanted to share that small piece, because um, I get it, I understand it, and I know there's so many people still struggling, and when I mention it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have severe trauma that led you to go into the foster care system. There's a
Mhm.
lot of people who have trauma who haven't made it through those doors. There's a lot of people who have had trauma who've made it through those doors but went back home and now they're in prison because they
Yeah,
never dealt with what happened. They went back home and they was told to be hushed, or
they don't
sweep
know
under
how
the
to deal
rug,
with it. Yep.
and what have you. So I wanted to definitely, talk to that point that you made. But also, you made another point, and you could tell me I would answer this or not. But I asked this question to a lot of people who say the same thing that you did. Um, when all of it stops, when life slows down, when there's not another degree for you to get, what are you going to be running towards, pushing towards? When are you gonna, take that day to actually sit in the bed? Because I know some people be like, I can't sit in the bed to 12. That means I'm not being productive at all. Like when that day comes for you to actually settle down and relax and be with self and self be with thoughts, and maybe with your kids or maybe with your spouse, how are you going to deal with that?
So, are you asking like mental state or just in general?
However way you want to answer it. You gave me two options, so I'm gonna say both.
Okay, okay. So, mental state, I think I'm doing actually pretty well now to gear up into that position because I do feel like I do know, like, okay, I'm close to my fourth degree. I do think about my future a lot. And so I think with me, I have pretty good talks with myself and I don't talk negative about myself. So I think I will be okay mentally. It takes me a good amount of time. I know I don't hold grudges, but for me to, I have to talk about it the whole 24 hours because I don't like to go to bed mad. So I like to wake up feeling refreshed and cool, and then I'm good. But it does take me, I'll give it less than a month. It used to take me years, so I feel like that's progress. As far as like in general, I do plan to have kids. I do plan to, get married and just kind of settle down. I feel like right now I'm always on the go, and I think that it would just be nice to be, and that's kind of what I'm gearing up to be, like financially stable, able to just, because I want to own some land. Like I have so many goals that I want to do that I haven't yet even said. But I'm, building my little vision board. And when it comes to myself and just, bettering me, I think relaxation and living a stress-free life is kind of where I see myself because I'm always, I can't stay in the bed too long because, that's just, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love a bed day. Like I'll be asleep. Like I love a bed day. But then I feel like, okay, the day is passing by. I'm just here. So definitely just like building my future and being more calm. I feel like I'm very vibrant and I'm very out there, like outgoing and just chilling a little bit and just kind of going with the flow. That's kind of what I see myself doing.
That's awesome. That's good to hear. That's good to hear. Because I ask that question a lot because a lot of people, um, are just moving, and moving and moving, and not to say that they're not dealing with their mental health, or not to say that they don't have a strategic plan, but also, I don't think a lot of people ask those people,
Mhm.
like, what's your plan when all of this is done? How do you plan to relax? Like right now you got a lot of things to focus on,
I can't
but
relax now.
like, when you actually have achieved the goals, when you actually have made it to that mark, are you gonna be okay with being
Mhm,
with self? Are you
mhm.
gonna be fine with all that you have? Because sometimes when we're moving so fast, sometimes we're running from something. And I'm not saying that you are, but a lot
Well,
of people are.
no.
I'm just, I'm not trying to call it. And you I'm just saying,
Well,
a lot of times
how it
we
is,
are,
I am definitely running from
you
something.
and then when we finally, and published that book, when we finally, made it to the White House,
Yeah.
whatever, like, we have done everything that we can do within our career field, and we then are unhappy,
A
you
lot of
know?
people are unhappy, especially when
Mhm,
they go for these high positions. That's really what I want to. I'm glad you touched on this. I am so glad you touched on this because I think even though I would say I had I would say I had a bad childhood, but then again, it was still it wasn't the worst as it could get. It was very traumatic for me. Now that I, have time to realize what actually transpired. But because of that, I feel like even though I felt crumbled and it caused me mental health trauma and all this, I feel like I've seen so many different people that were close to me
mhm,
act when they get these high positions, when they, see and even now, just like coworkers and stuff like that, I see how people are, especially with money, especially with this type of entitlement and this and that, and it
mhm,
just rubs me the wrong way. So I think that's another reason why I like being in school for so long, because the exposure. Okay, you
mhm,
get sometimes it is about finding who you are and stuff like that, but studying other people and finding, your tone, your style and stuff also comes with it. And I think, seeing how people are, and that's why I told you like relaxation and stuff like that, because I look at people, I'm like, I do not want to be you when I grow up. Like I do not, even though I'm like an adult now, I'm still like, yeah, no, your whole demeanor and just like how you are. A lot of people who have reached their goals and they just feel entitled. They feel better
yeah,
than everybody. I could look at a janitor, someone off the street, a homeless person, and still get advice, still learn from them. I don't never judge somebody off of a position or like even if they've been in the system. My job has really deterred my thinking. Like I changed my thinking so much when it comes to like, prison, people in jail, like people who do these crimes. Cause I'm like, the system is so jacked up. Like, and that's something I'm trying to change too. But I've definitely become more aware and and I try not to be very judgmental. And so I'm so happy you just brought that up. I am sorry, but I'm just happy that
no,
you mentioned
no,
that.
you're okay. And, you just brought up the fact, one thing that I've learned throughout my process of healing and growing to be the man that I am today, and helping others that are under my wing, whether I'm doing peer support or mentoring or just giving advice, is to listen, not to respond, to
Yeah,
observe. Like, you can learn so much by just being silent and looking and observing, taking notes and what have you. Now, that doesn't mean silence your voice when there's injustice, or tolerate abuse, or tolerate neglect, or what have you, in your youth or in your adult life, because we know that that stuff can still happen.
yeah,
Um, that means that you observe and you take note, but you still speak up for yourself. You still advocate for yourself. But also, one thing I would say is be strategic. Pick your battles.
pick
You
it
know,
and know how to go about
for the young people out there, more than likely your first 5 jobs are gonna suck. You're gonna hate your manager or your supervisor, but it's a job. A
Mhm.
job is different than a career, you know. And a lot of people don't make it to the career portion. They stay in the job portion, and they
Yeah,
wonder
I think
why they're in this space and what have you. And this is from my opinion. So there may be other people opinions out there, what have you. Start a podcast, share it. But from my opinion, I've worked so many different jobs that if I were to put everything that I've done, it would be like 5 different pages, and then get to the part of like
no,
working
it
towards
did
my career,
that's
you
still
know,
yeah,
and everything, working everything from landscaping to car detailing to
every
fast
little job, you just pick
food to
it up.
waitressing, everything. Like, and realizing where I was and doing those jobs was definitely a lot of survival mindset. And it wasn't the survival mindset from my trauma, it was the survival mindset of being in life and trying to pay bills. That's
Yeah.
a separate that's a separate thing. Like a lot of us coming from urban areas, coming from areas where we see a lot of strife and poverty, we institutionalize those mindsets and never move from them because we don't see the representation, we don't see, a way out
There
and what
goes that
have you.
talk again.
Right,
Mhm.
right, and that's where it
Never
comes
make
to.
it out, so I might as well just stay here. So
Right, right. And it comes to combating those thoughts and what have you. And I just wanted to share that piece, that um just continue forward, start out. It's no There's no age limit to learning.
mhm.
There's
Mhm.
no age limit to learning.
You should be
There's no
learning something.
age limit to telling people I don't think you're the best fit to be in my life.
Mhm. There's
Like you
nothing
don't
wrong with
have
saying
to
that.
have you like realistically you like there's this whole idea that I need to get a friend, I need to, what have you.
I'm
But
there
for
right
me,
now. I'm at that stage, right? Because you feel lonely, so you're like, "Man, I wanna go out, I wanna have this friend," but then
right.
there's bad friends, so it's just like, "No,
Hmm.
bad friends are not better than, no
Hmm.
friends." Please understand that. But
And
I
I,
do
I would I would
um,
challenge people to, in that aspect of what you said,
mhm.
feeling that loneliness because we all do. Like, we all do. As you get older,
No
you be like,
lie, 'cause
dang,
I know a lot of them
I
have
wish I
some
had some
people with
companionship. Like, let me get a dog or what have you, or
emotional
like
support. Yes.
sometimes when we feel that, like I'm I've been moving into this space a lot, and I'm pretty sure there may be some science behind it, but our body does this wonderful thing just telling us what's wrong or helping us heal or helping us, what have you. Like our body naturally wants to do these things. So I feel as though when we are in these places where we like feeling that loneliness, like, it's really heavy on our hearts and in our spirit, there's some work that we can do within ourselves, but
Mhm.
also like that doesn't mean that it's just all you. That may mean that you are
Yeah.
seeking, or you are ready for that space for you to get out there, to socialize, to, build more of a community, and that doesn't mean that when your first time you go out, you got to come bring some people home. That doesn't
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
like go fill some people out, find your tribe, find your village,
Find your
and
village.
and,
Yeah.
and yeah, and through that find people that are collectively trying to be where you are or in that same
Mhm.
avenue.
Have the
For
same
me,
mindset. I love
right.
it.
For me,
Yeah.
when I moved, I recently moved closer to my home city or what have you. And I was like, okay, for me, the conversation went like this. Okay, God, I'm trying to at this point I've been doing it on my own. And
Mhm.
I know this next phase, I need people. Help
Yeah.
me find the right people for me that is not of my own will but of the will that you have for me and the
That's
mission that you have
powerful.
me doing. And I know in my work that I work in child welfare, I have so many things that I feel like I'm called to do within this. So I want to be with people who are aligned with that. I don't want to be with people who's going to drain me. I don't want to be with people who's going to look at everything I'm doing and say, all right, Michael, go ahead. I need some people that's going to give
Yes.
me
Oh my
criticism.
gosh, the best
I
people.
need some
So
people who's gonna call me out, and what have
But
you.
respectfully call you out and,
Right.
have the thing like, I'm so glad you mentioned that because a lot on what you touched on, I'm currently dealing with. And it's just like trying to find, as you outgrow some people and you want to find, people of the same mindset, it's kind of hard to, like I said, that was powerful for you just to even say, like, I'm ready for this, I'm ready for that, and really
Mhm.
speak it into existence. Because I speak a lot of things into existence. But yeah, just finding, okay, so this person, they're very blunt, I'm feeling it, I like this, but their tone, how they talk to me. But then I have to realize
Mhm.
that some people are how they are and they're not trying to be hurtful, but they're not going to coddle you. They're not going to say, good job, because I feel like someone that's always saying good job. And so you're never going to see you're wrong. You're never going to see you can be wrong. And
Mhm.
I think a lot of times as humans, we don't like to hear the word no, or that, we're wrong, we're doing bad. But just sitting and by yourself and realizing, like, and that's another thing that you mentioned too earlier, is just like when you're by yourself and you have these talks and you figure out, okay, who are you and stuff like that, it's really important to not be so judgmental and to
Mhm.
not, and to be open,
Give yourself that grace.
yeah, when people are telling you things that you might not like, and I struggle with this, so I can say it, but I've heard people say some negative things that I'm like, no, that can never be me. But they know you best. They've been around you 24/7. So it's like I can argue with them or I can grow and say, okay, let me work on this. Because sometimes we feel like we're the best and we feel like we're doing okay, but maybe we're not. And it's
Yeah,
okay for others to say that without it being a confrontation. And I think our generation really struggles with that. So I definitely want to say thank you for mentioning that too.
definitely. I want to switch gears, you know, back to, your work, and what have you, to touch on it because I know you just recently touched on it. Your experience with working with people within the correction system and what have you, changing
Mhm.
your thought. And I know this is a passionate place for you and where you see your future going and the work that you want to do. So, um, as we surpass that timeline from the education, and you're still pursuing education, but as we get more into the expertise, growing the strategic goals towards career,
Mm.
and the advocacy work and the passions that you have, um, feel free to share a little bit about that.
Okay, so even though I am in school, and when I say school, I mean like master's, postgraduate type thing. When I choose a job, okay, and I was just talking to my sister about this literally yesterday, so it's really interesting. But when I choose a job, my jobs, so my very first job was Figer Law Firm. Well, actually, let me backtrack. My very, very first job was Katopoulos and Associates Bankruptcy Law Firm. And as you say, that was like for me a job. It wasn't a career. Because one, I did not like it. I just picked it up because it's like, ooh, law firm, it looked good. I didn't really care for it. And it kind of showed because it was just like, I mean, I did the work, but it was like the people, no, like everything was just all wrong. And so when I got the job at Figer, that was a really big milestone, I felt like, for my career because I was really young. Most people that I work with are in their 40s. And even in my schooling, it was nobody, like I was 23 at the time. So there was nobody that was 23 at all where I was working. And so I was sitting there like, oh my gosh, especially looking at my face, I looked to be about 12. So that even sucked worse. And so being Black, like I had to figure out wardrobe. I had to like with no help too. So I'm asking my mom. My mom's an MD. She does not know anything about law. So like half of my family are doctors. So it's just like, where do I go? So that's what the resources came in too. So even though I'm in school, I'm picking jobs that will set me up for the future. So once I graduate, because I do believe that staying at one job for a good amount of time will do you justice. And so as I moved up, Like right now I'm working with the prosecution office and we are collaborating with Ashton Carter staffing and consulting law or staffing and consulting firm. And so what I do, I look at every single file and they're public sector. So I just want to make this clear like when I work at the law firms, those are private sectors. And so when I'm doing stuff like prosecution office or anything involving the government and stuff, that's public sector. And I found out that I really love public sector because of just who I am as a person. I've always been like a community person, helping everybody that walks through the door. And I feel like, and this is not to bash previous jobs or nothing like that, but I feel like with private sector, it's kind of like an unintentional bias there because you either go for the case that's most popular on the news or someone who's willing to pay you as much so you get something out of it rather than oh I'm just helping you. I mean, because they are, but it comes with a price. And I feel like public sector, I kind of help everybody. I don't look at the background, where they are, race, nothing like that. So as far as the juvenile system, we get a lot of cases coming in, and part of my job is to kind of, mentor these kind of kids, because I'm working with the kids. I'm not really working with the adults,
Mhm.
but we still get adult cases too that I handle. But as far as the kids go, part of my job is to kind of mentor them, and I have to figure out like strategies to kind of talk to each one individually because we it's no help when you do it in a big group setting. People have to feel connected to you. People have to want to open up. And that goes with them being in jail too. That's no different. So, with my background in sociology, I'm able to look online and really talk to other therapists and, kind of figure out how can we even start that boundary of trust? Because I feel like you need to build trust with the people. And so just letting them know that, like, I am here for you. I do not care that you're in the jail system. I do not judge you. What you say is private, it's with you and me. It does not leave these doors. And so you just kind of have to build on that. And a lot of kids in the justice system, they really like that. Like, I feel like, and because I'm young and I can relate to them more, because some of my coworkers are really old, and it's just like, I wouldn't even want to talk to you. Like, they're so nice, but it's just like, dude, you could be like my grandpa. What am I doing? Like, no. So I think because I'm closer to their age, they're able to open up more and I understand their slang. I feel like sometimes a language barrier too can come into contact where it gets hard, but I try to teach these kids that, like, because a lot of them ask. I was sitting with one literally in handcuffs. Okay, I was at the jail and they were in handcuffs, and I'm getting fingerprinted because that's my job, but they were just sitting there and they're over there talking to me about how they got locked up, and I'm just like, and then my boss is right there, so they were trying to add me on Instagram. I'm like, okay, this is a little unprofessional. But you had to set that tone, that friendship. And he was just like, oh, what school did you go to? He was like, I wanted to go here, but then, the cops came to. So it's just like these kids want to do better and they want to learn, but they need to see someone their age. And I think that's huge. They need to see someone their age that's a little bit more successful that can help them and tell them that, like, look, just because you're in the justice system, some schools will still take you. Some, it might be difficult, but you have to prove to them why you want to go to the school, just like we would, if we weren't in the justice system. But and they do have that section on the application that, tells you. And so I think a lot of, what I do and, really helps. And so I just love that I'm working with the prosecution because I see so many different cases and I see all these charges. And something I've learned, and I hope I don't get in trouble for this, it's like sometimes it's so hard to kind of share what I know because it's like we have to uphold a certain, confidential thing. But I've noticed like the charges, and sometimes with the law is so broad that literally it leaves room to be so, I don't even know the word for it, but it leaves room for corrupt people to attach the crimes to the law because it's broad. So it's like if they just had a gun, oh, we could tie it to here, we could tie it to here, even though the law doesn't specifically say you can, but then again, one can argue that it can. You know what I'm saying? So um, I like that because I'm in law and because I'm in my path and what I'm doing, I can really, really kind of help our people out. And not even just Black people. I feel like I can help the minority race. Like, I feel like you have white and then like everything underneath it. And I feel like, for the Asians, for the Filipino, like everybody else, I just see the corruption and I'm like, this has to change. So that's something that I'm trying to do is change the law and do all these things for us. But yeah, I think for anybody being knowledgeable about the law is definitely, definitely up there. Um, but yeah, just to answer your question, I hope I did. But yeah, I try to find different jobs that and sometimes I do look for titles because I feel like the higher up you go, the more you can change things. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I could talk to these people here or there, but how can I actually go about changing it? And so that's why I'm happy, I got this new legal management position and I'm just trying to learn everything I can. I really want to perfect my craft and learn everything I can just so that I'm hoping in the next 5 to 10 years we get some law change. I mean, we got abortion laws still with us. Governor Gretchen is doing her thing with us, and she's white, so I really love that about her. And so yeah, we got people in the Supreme Court now that are Black, that are serious. So it's just like I'm seeing some changes. So we're not there yet, but we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there.
Well, I appreciate that. First and foremost, I want to say I appreciate your time. I'm truly honored and privileged for you sharing your story, your journey, yeah, the future, with us, because we're going to be looking, we're going to be watching, sure enough,
Please
I will
do.
be,
Please
you
do.
know.
You might be running for representative or state, like, please do.
I
I'm
truly
trying,
appreciate
y'all.
it. I truly appreciate it. One thing I want to share, I think I've shared it with my audience before, but I appreciate the work, the time, the effort that you're doing with juveniles because once upon a time that was me. And I know what transformed my experience being a juvenile is facing the injustices from the correction officers, the discrimination from the lawyers, from the court system itself. Um,
Corrupt. I don't
and,
even.
and
Yeah.
one day when we were locked up in our cells, um, they used to like bring a wagon and give us books or what have you while they had like their little meetings or staff meetings or what have you. So we'd be locked in there for an hour or two, and they give us something to read. On that wagon was a law dictionary. And I picked up that law dictionary and I
Mhm.
read it back and forth and back and forth. And that kind of started a spark within me within law and policy and different things like that.
I
And I
love.
remember from that moment understanding recipient rights, understanding that um, there was power that we had. We didn't just deserve them things. I started to teach other people in the system. And I started to it went from my unit to like usually people passing notes to talk to a girl or whatever when you locked up. I was passing notes on people to look up different things within dictionaries and stuff like that to help them with their cases. And I wasn't no lawyer, but you know, um,
You don't have to be a
there
lawyer
was
to
a
be,
lot there was
you
a
know.
lot of injustices happening in these facilities that I was in, and I felt that I had the opportunity to get this knowledge, and if I wasn't gonna make it out, they deserved to,
Mhm.
and there was a level of camaraderie made between that,
Mhm.
and when me and you were speaking before this, talking about how a lot of them didn't make it, You
Yeah.
know, I remember each and every name and each and every person. And I've been in so many different residential facilities. And I remember the last place that I was at. It was a pilot independent living program. And
Okay.
I'm one of six who is actually out, no criminal charges, you know, haven't fell prey to any of the at risk, you know,
Mhm,
aftercare,
mhm.
you know, labels or stigmas that there are out there. Um, and I hold that at high regard, but also that sits heavy on my heart as an individual because I'm like, why? What could we have done different to help those other people be where I'm at? And I'm not even anywhere like, you know, granted,
Yeah.
I have these different things and stuff like that, but I'm not even
You're doing well for
any,
yourself,
you
you
know,
know? It's
yeah,
okay
I'm
to
doing
do
well,
that.
but I'm like, what could have been different to help them at least, get somewhere stable?
Yeah.
Did we send them back home to instability? Like what? And that's what drives my work is because I remember each and every individual story.
And
Now
that's
some
amazing.
people, you know,
That's something because it's a lot. I know it's probably a lot of people that you come across. So that's really something. And it shows that you care too, because it's like, I mean, sometimes I do look at that when we, are helping these people. And it's like, from my personal experience, sometimes it is tough because it's like we try not, sometimes we try not to choose like who we, let out or who we let in or who we keep in. And, it's like, okay, did this person really change? And, we have to see their mindset. Are they safe enough to go back to the public? And are the public safe, with them being, you know, with them? And so I think that's where it comes a little tricky. And it's almost like I want to try not to look at it as like, okay, well, I'm lucky because I got out and then they didn't, but almost to where it's like, okay, we helped one, we did a good job. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like a lot of times, especially with some of my coworkers, it's even hard just to do one. So when we feel like, we really went on a limb for this person and they're doing well, they got out, we really feel good about that. And so we try the next person and the next person. And I think it just matters on the crime that they did, their mindset. I feel like mindset really plays a part. And like you said, you picked up the law dictionary and you were like, okay, I got rights. You realize like, it's okay to, question my charge. It's okay, but you got to do it respectfully. Some people, they want to get cute, pull out the phone, be disrespectful. And it's like a lot of times you can escape, being arrested when they pull you over because it's how you are. It's your mannerism. It's how you, but sometimes you can't. Sometimes it's just they look at your color. So I understand that part. But
right,
I do want to make a side note though too, going back to careers and stuff, because I really want these young people to understand that like not everything is for social media, and jobs really do look at that. It's so many people, how we talked about a job versus a career, and I see so many teenagers, young adults that when they get a bad business deal or they feel like they've been cheated out of anything, they go to social media. And it's like, well, the next job that may want to hire you is gonna look at you. They look at all my social media. They're gonna look. I've had questions. They were like, so what is this post? So what is this post? And I was like, that's just my TikTok. I'm very excited. And they're like, okay, so they're understandable. They just want to know what's going on. And so I've never had anybody tell me to take something down that I've posted. I'll tell you one boss said that. But I'm not even gonna get into that. But she was also white, a different color. But yeah, I just want kids to be more people to be more aware of when they post, make it meaningful, make it, you don't always have to have that attitude. You could talk about it, at home to your peers, like, oh my gosh. But once that hits the net, it can stop you from potential job offers too. But I'm sorry, I just wanted to make a note on that because
no,
I
no,
know I
no,
see it so
that's
often.
That's definitely important, and I even go a step further in sharing. Even if you don't have the verbiage, the vocabulary, the eloquent, way of speaking, because I know we have our urbanized, language,
The slang.
I'm just saying that that's probably the most professional way. You say urbanized.
That is how
uh,
I'm
but
like,
once upon a time, there's a cussing word between each and every word that I said, and that's how I started out advocating. Someone heard me, you
mm,
know, someone decided. So just because everyone isn't listening, that doesn't mean you stop advocating. That
yep,
doesn't mean that like, because there is a learning curve. Like, your voice deserves to be heard. And you may not have had, someone to sit down with you and be like, hey, you can't say that. You gotta,
mhm.
let me help you
But it's how
prepare a way
you
to
say
speak.
it to
You
get
know,
your point across.
right,
Because I've
right.
seen people. I've had a peer, he's a dear friend of mine, so I'll say dear friend. But he wants to show his greatness, his artwork, his this and that, and he has like really bad mental health because he gets so discouraged. And I'm like,
Mhm.
bro, if you don't keep posting, people are gonna watch without liking. This whole idea of I got one like, I got one view, this and this and this. No, people are going to watch, whether you believe it or not. I see so many people. I'm like, who the heck is this? They're gonna watch, and so they might not congratulate you. They might not do this or that. But that doesn't mean stop posting. You have to find it within yourself to know that you're great
Yep.
without seeking approval. I know that I may post a lot on my social media, and people will say, you're doing this for attention, you want the applause, you want this. I'm just naturally excited. I'm just trying to show you guys what I'm doing, so that if you need my services, I can help you. I'm trying to do this. And so some people understand, and I'm like, don't listen to the inner voice that's in your head, because sometimes it may not always be the right answer. So you just gotta have to find it within you, find your passion, know and stand for what you want. I know a lot of people hate. They say you're so close-minded, you don't listen to nobody. But do you really want a lawyer that's going to switch sides and, after every opinion? This is what I believe, but someone said this, so I'm going to go with this. No, you don't want that. So I listen to everything, best believe me. And I sit and I say, what's the best for me? Because nobody knows me better than me. Like, come on now. So,
I love that. I love that, and I appreciate that. I've had a couple similar experiences with people. My podcast, my platform. Not being their cup of tea, or for some reason, they've had something negative to say,
mhm,
and my response is always, well, what do you believe I can do better?
yeah.
Why? I'm never.
Why
My
are you
thing is like this. Even whether what you feel is valid or not, I know that what I'm doing is not everyone's cup of tea.
mhm.
What I say is not everyone's cup of tea. You
And that's
chose to
okay.
listen to this. You
Mhm.
chose to come, but
You
also,
chose to
like,
be on
I
my team.
understand I have a due diligence not to snap on everybody, not to go off. And
That's a big
and
yeah.
that's a level of growth, and not everybody's there, and I'm not gonna speak to the people who aren't there, because I understand that once upon a time I wasn't,
Mhm.
but I know that no matter where I'm at, there's someone looking and waiting and what have you. So it's my duty to, approach every situation with respect and integrity, so for those people, they probably was like, "Oh, he said it," and they caught him off guard,
Mhm.
But I
Trust
believe
me, I'm in the same boat. It's hard for
Selena
me.
Gomez said it in the best way in her song "Kill 'Em with Kindness," and that's what I've been doing ever since I got out of the system, and
Sometimes
even
it's
in the
hard to kill them with kindness. It's so
system,
hard. It's
it
like
is,
you
it
see
is. But then you just smile and wave, and you walk away. You,
and it's like sometimes I do be snapping, but I don't I'm very careful on what I say, believe it or not. And that's why
Mhm.
people are like, oh my God, it's so hard to see you mad. I said, no, I get mad, but I've learned that you can't take words back, and people are going to stick with those negative words, that whatever you said. So I try to stick to the topic at hand if I'm mad, this and this, try not to call them out their names. So I really do try and control that. And that's a growth because I used to be so bad. So I'm thankful I had family and, experience to kind of tell me like, bro, what are you doing? Like this character, like, ew, like this is not, you need to change this. And of course, you didn't want to hear it at the time, but just seeing like it really helps. So, and now I find myself trying to tell others, like you don't have to be this way. You can still get your point across and win and be like, up there. And so, but not everybody's there. And it's okay that, it doesn't make them bad for lashing out. It doesn't make them, a horrible person for how they are, but still, you just okay, they need some growth to do. But love on them, just, yeah, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I will tell you that. Unfortunately, you could think everybody loves you, but there are some sneaky haters or some right in your face.
Right, right. Well, my next question was going to be, what advice would you like to leave here? But I feel like
Oh,
we've chimed in that. But if you have
yeah.
anything else you would like to give or leave, please feel free to
I
share
will
them.
keep this short and brief because I know a lot of my answers been super long. Uh, I'm just saying. I would just say, and I hope people really hear me on this because I see it. I think after the pandemic, I've seen this a lot more. And it's just be kinder to one another and really understand that, you know, just talking really does help. A lot of people, feel like, that goes hand to hand with just talking to respond and talking to listen. I feel like there's a lot of miscommunication and people feel because they're grown they could just say whatever and then up I don't got to deal with them, but they want to come back and retract and this all this, you could save a lot of that by just talking and telling people this is how I feel, this is how you feel, okay, let's come to a conclusion. And a lot of people, even when they're older, they like to be stuck in a sense of, you know yeah, they wanna keep the bond and they wanna do this and that, but they wanna be stuck in that trauma. They don't wanna I don't wanna talk about it, but then make little side remarks about what happened, years ago. So it's like communication, is key. Understanding is key. Listening is very helpful. Listening and not listening to respond, just listening. Um, and yeah, just be kinder to people and understand that, sometimes people project their fears onto you. So if they're upset, if they're screaming at you, people are human. It's going to happen. But I think we as humans really need to control how we react to things. I think taking a 10 to 15 minute, break, if someone responds in a negative way, just like hold on, be like, did you mean to say this to me? Call them up for clarity. So I think just really taking the time and watching how we react can really help, I feel like. But yeah, just to keep it short and sweet.
Definitely. I truly appreciate it, and I appreciate those gems you just left with us. My last statement is any last comments, that you have for the guests. And this can be a space to share a business, a book, an album you about to, unleash or whatever, how people can further connect with you, or what have you, whatever you're comfortable with sharing if you want to.
So, first, again, I just really want to say thank you for bringing me on. Thank you to Gabriella Millar because okay, let me just tell y'all something. She told me about you. That's how I found out on your page. And I probably said her last name so wrong, but she is a wonderful human being. And she recently just graduated from Wayne State, like Team Warrior, like, yes. I am so freaking proud of her. But yeah, she really connected me with you. And I just like, even from our conversation beforehand, I really felt like in a way, because I'm like, okay, I don't even know this man, but how our chemistry, how we just connected, it was just like, I I just wanted to know more. And so I started looking at your podcast. I'm like, wow, he really, is doing well. And congratulations on your awards too. And I just saw your keynote speaker thing. Listen, I was so upset. I was like, he is really doing it. I'm so proud of him. And I don't even care that I just met you. I'm just like, I love seeing, us succeed and stuff because it's hard. It's really hard. And so definitely keep posting. You guys can follow me on all social media, just Farah Jackson. I do have a YouTube, and it's basically Farah Jackson, just with the extra H. As far as my Instagram, like you'll be able to find me when you just type that in. But yeah, I'm really happy that you let me come on because I was so excited for this. But I just really hope that I touch on a lot of people. I do want to shout out because I know some people are probably going to be listening in because I told them,
Yeah.
you got some lawyers and law firms in here, buddy. Okay. Because I told these people to listen. So shout out to James King, defense attorney. He's Black. He's really good. I'm telling y'all, like, oh, he will help y'all win some. He was one of the reasons why I wanted to be a defense attorney, low key. But then I'm like, I got this prosecution job, and I'm like, okay, but it's a 6-month project, so it won't be too long. But it's good to be, to do both sides and stuff. But shout out to Mike Morris Law Firm, y'all. If y'all need any advice on which law firm to go to, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't give legal advice. I'm just gonna put that out there because who people get that confused. But I do, kind of connect you guys to who I feel like would better help your case. I could review it if you guys have any, information, even if it's social work, because I do have a minor in sociology. So I do some of that. I have a professor at OU who literally does social work for a living, and she's really good at helping people like out of the foster care system and just like that. So I have connections that you guys would not believe. But yeah, just reach out, and I'm all for free of charge. I don't really charge people unless you need me to go to court or something like that, but I don't really charge people. And anything is less than $20. I don't do. You should see some of these fees on that these lawyers. I'm like, oh my God. But no, especially James King, he'll take you on for free. So yeah, just knowing the right people to talk to, I feel like is something I learned. But yeah, this was just really great to be on here. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Awesome, awesome. Such a privilege and such an honor to have you on, and to have you share your story, and all that you're going through. When I started this podcast, I was interviewing a lot of different people, and I quickly realized that the message could be conveyed differently. It wasn't that anyone came to me and said that it could be, but I had a lot of people with high positions and careers and stuff like that. So I saw that I needed to have variety and versatility, in this, and not just showcase people who made it, and not just showcase people who haven't made it as well, but also show the middle ground. Like, it's important to show where people are working hard, that are doing great, but also still working on some things in life, still navigating some things, like I wanted to showcase every face, and that's my goal, to showcase the resiliency in each and every stage, each and every path that people are willing to share. And I appreciate you sharing your story and taking this time. As I get ready to end this podcast today, episode 3 of season 3, it's truly a privilege to continue to do this work with you guys on another season. The goal is 50 episodes this season. I'm already at 90.
I heard you saying that. Like, wow.
So today this will be 91. Once I release this will be 91 episodes within 2 years later. Or less than a 2-year span. So
and see, it's always good to give yourself a little toot because 91, y'all. I don't know if y'all heard that. 91.
So
You
that's
gotta say
the
it again for
there's
them.
an episode for every single person, no matter what you're going through. I feel like I have an episode for each and every person out there, and if it ain't that one episode, try another one. Something
Trying
should
to
speak
just
to
keep
you. I have
on
91
telling.
episodes, including this one today. More to come, and I want to, put a showcase for if you're listening and you feel like your story should be heard. Um, I would love to have you on. Reach out to me, and we connect. But I would be remiss if I didn't say, we spoke about a lot of different things, today. Some things could be triggering in whichever way. So please
Mhm.
take some time after listening to this episode to, deep breathe, do some mindfulness exercises, center yourself, before doing anything else. We don't want you to, take that or pass that on or what
Get
have
on the
you.
floor like he just brought up all my trauma again.
Look. So just, take some time to, get yourself, in the right headspace. But also if it's something that sparks you that you didn't know affected you or what have you, and you need help finding or navigating that, feel free to reach out to me. I would love to help you navigate finding, a therapist or finding the right person to talk to you about these things in a professional light. Also mental health, depression, suicide, and further issues that I can't mention right
Yeah,
now,
like
are
it's great.
serious. They
Yeah.
they are affecting a lot of our BIPOC communities, but not even only our BIPOC community, are affecting our nation in a alarming rate.
Mhm.
Everyone knows somebody that they can reach out today and just say, "Hey, are you okay?" And if
Yeah.
they tell you, "Okay, I'm fine," are
They're
you
not.
really okay?
Yeah. It's
You
usually
know,
the strong
everybody
person
knows,
that never
right?
suggest, that's always smiling, always giving.
Hmm. We
Okay,
all know that person that we
okay,
can
but we
go
know
on
you're
to
not okay.
that.
Yeah.
Definitely. So take
Especially if
some
they
time.
tell you stuff. Yeah.
Take some time to check on them. Take some time to say hello. It may be more than one person. If it's more than one person, we need to have a conversation. You know, but
Hard
no,
to
check
tell
on them.
you okay just to reach out is sometimes
Right.
hard because it's like I don't want to reach out and then you are not okay and then it's like oh my god I don't want you to snap on me I don't want you know what I'm saying so sometimes it's like even that text even like are you okay just
Yeah.
reaching out is a big step so
Yeah. And that's important. Like it is a risk that that person can snap on you. It is a risk, but going into that conversation, going into that reach out, hey, I'm not that therapist. I'm not that psychologist, but I truly do care about you. You know, I may not like everybody on this earth, but I sure enough love y'all. I sure enough
yeah
love y'all,
I even
and any way that I can prevent, another person, committing suicide, another person feeling alone,
Mhm.
another person, dying alone, of an illness or, what have you. I would love to, any way that I can support, let me know. It's tough. COVID has taught us a lot, and we will be remiss if we did not learn the lessons from it.
Mhm.
History has taught us a lot, especially from the conversations I've had between these three different seasons, and the intergenerational, the transgenerational, people's pathology and the history between childhood traumas and what have you, that everyone goes through something.
Mhm.
Everyone goes through something,
No matter how
you
well
know,
they hide it
right?
'cause they will
So with that being said, it has been a pleasure and an honor, to have you on. Thank you guys for listening. This has been Resilient Voices and Beyond. You have a good night, good morning, good whatever you're listening to this. And thank you. Talk to you guys soon.